Oh, I was just saying that if Steven's not here, although we have close to a quorum, but one small thing might be to do a quick verbal summarization of the last couple months or as opposed to just like the meeting. And Felix, I know you said once we reach a conclusion, but I'd almost like to hear or give an update, because I don't know that we'll ever reach like a concluding space. But have we concluded anything in the last couple months? So, I mean, do we have kind of like mainly two competing models? I know we just had that big discussion, but if you want to answer the Y source guys.
I think we have made some progress in that, for example, the notion that formalization has to be kind of optional, a different layer, yada, 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 because we won't necessarily agree in formalization. I think that is something I got out of the conversation. What do we mean by a layer was just put on the table yesterday. Is it, you know, for Stephen, I realize now that it's, oh, let's have one layer in one database, another layer in another database, which I would never do. I was thinking of interpretation layers of a shared data bus. And, you know, I've been clear about the shared data bus, and I guess Stephen's been clear about the two databases. It's just we didn't fully realize the extent of the gap of basic intent.
Yeah. So yeah, I just basically said exactly what you did. And I think the realization that you're talking about two different things came a bit too late. Like, and I was wondering how we can get there quicker. And you both had the most realizations when you were writing down stuff, like in the notepad when Stephen was writing it down, like you both said, oh, that's what you're talking about. And,
but interestingly, you know, we've been talking, we said, okay, we agree on the basic principles, and and now it's become a software engineering discussion. And we found this big philosophical discussion when we went to the software engineering level, which I also find fascinating. We were willing to go to the bits and bytes, and then we realized we're not talking about the same thing at all. And isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it helps to get practical, to the practical layers, because then it's about actually doing something, and then people would do things differently and realize, oh, we're doing completely different things. Yeah, as you said.
I'm still a bit puzzled that it came as a revelation, because I said I was working on a data bus since day one. But also, I also failed to understand the implications of what Stephen was saying. So we've both had our blind spots. But the blind spot thing is really what, wow, all this time.
And I had like only the most basic principles in mind without any implementation at all. And for me, it could have been like the data bus, the two systems communicating, or even like one single database where you just have different layers of interpretation.
But it is true that part of that discussion is did happen before. Like when Tim and I have the discussion about federated versus centralized, it is part of the same conversation. So that's why I'm even more surprised that it was a surprise to Stephen, because a lot of the discrepancy was explored in those conversations about centralized versus federated, and what it means to have federated systems and what it means to have. And like, it is true that for me, and I'm not against a centralized reference endpoint for public conversation, but for me, the thing must be distributed, because not all conversations will be public, and I don't want the private conversations to be isolated from the public conversations in some weird way. I want kind of layers of privacy and that kind of stuff.
In that sense, things just have to be communicated a bit clearer and more redundantly, so everybody's on the same page. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, just let's encourage to write things down more often.
But yeah, in terms of consensus, like, okay, I think that our big consensus is progressive formalization. We don't agree on how to do it, but that is the big consensus, right? And some of the implications of that are, for example, that means that the arguments and predicates have to have an informal version. Even at the informal version, one thing we said last day is, okay, what happens is we just have a formal version. Should we propose the formal, the serialization of the formal expression as, well, this is all we have because nobody bothered to give it a linguistic form. So this is what we have for now. My ideas have evolved a lot, but I don't know if I'm any closer to a consensus with you guys than I was so many years ago. No, so many months ago, but almost years ago. I'm sure everybody would say that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we had so many good agreements about like the model and the principles and the basic ideas.
That's real.
I think that's some success.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what's still on the horizon. Like, what are the things we need to push through? Because we have like many open issues right now, like the whole logic formula thing, compound claims, something we stopped talking about.
Yeah.
Now it's the layers, which is also not a finished discussion, I guess.
Yeah, yesterday I wanted to bring in claim components more formally, which is a totally different conversation.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many different conversations we still need to do. Like,
and maybe having a list, having a list of
kind
those.
of a roadmap.
I think actually that would be a good use of our time together. Let's list, here is what we see as open issues, and list the positions on the open. Let's do an IBIS about this, right? I think this is an open issue, and this is how I see it. This is how this one see it. This is how this one see it, and why. And then we'll go into the whys. I think having an IBIS around this is actually a good use of our time at this point.
I'm not that familiar with that IBIS format, but one option is also, I found a free, it doesn't need to be free, but it's a ranked choice voting, and you can set it to where people can add their own items, and then we can, I think, continuously keep them updated just so we kind of know who wants to do work on what, and then we could go deeper. I think prioritizing the order or being considerate about that is not that we have to be strict on it, but rethinking, is this the most important thing at the moment? But that might be a tool. I don't know if other people would find that helpful or not.
Yeah, I thought about just using our GitHub repo and creating issues, just that, so we have a list and we can put them into different roadmaps and so on. We can, if there's a conclusion, we can update the issue and write it down there.
Yeah, I don't think of Git issues as a good way to do argumentation based.
Yeah, I'm more thinking in terms of as a roadmap and not of a detailed discussion about the topics, because that's why we have the meetings.
I was just wondering how the discussion, I mean, I guess we haven't had that much of a problem ordering them, especially when we have a benevolent dictator, then they just do the order they want, and then we rotate. So maybe it's not important. Yeah.
But Mark Antoine, how do you imagine doing it with IBIS? Would that result in a kind of roadmap, or what do you want to capture in an IBIS map?
What I want to capture is what each of us still sees as big open questions that, you know, we feel we haven't had agreement on. Like, maybe capture also the questions we've had agreement on. I think that's useful. Like, let's first say, okay, we've agreed on this, this, this. Here, I feel we haven't had an agreement, and here are the competing views. List them.
I
Then
think an
we can-
agreement, what we have agreed would be a great list to see, and that'd also be a great summary for.
Let's do both. I mean, we can. I'd say, and we can be. I'm saying let's do that simplistically in a Google Doc, right? And
So do you
let's
wanna
try.
just pull up a. Sorry.
Tim, I'm not hearing you.
I'm not talking.
I know. I'm just curious if you had something to opine on this.
Yeah, I have a lot to opine. I'm just not sure I have a way to construct them, to organize them in a constructive way. I mean, one thing, talking about the problem of people understanding each other, I finally got the feeling with one kind of meandering discussion I had with Stephen a while back, like last week, I guess, that it would have been more productive if we had actually used argument mapping tools. In that case, I saw that had we done that, it would have provided clarity, because we were assuming that the other person was making claims that the other person wasn't in that case. And mapping the discussion would not only be dogfooding, but would have solved that misunderstanding.
I even agree. Yeah, this is what I was saying about let's use an IBIS, or it can be another argument mapping, but let's have an argument map about what we agree and disagree on. I think that would be useful. That's also what I'm
Be a good experiment, but that's just for one topic, right? One map.
No,
one topic, or for everything?
let's everything.
Well,
Let's-
yeah. I mean, each controversy, each debate, we put it up there. Yeah, and related to that, part of the problem is on definitions, and we haven't really discussed that enough yet. And that's something, as far as I understand, that wouldn't be solved by an existing tool. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not that familiar with those kinds of tools. It wouldn't be solved by debate map. I mean, debate map lets you put in definitions, but so maybe it could be used for that. But
we could use our diagramming software that we used the last times and just use that, because if we're missing
that's
something,
even worse. No, that's even worse, because that has that's the worst place to put text and read it and access it. And as a first version solution to disambiguation, free text definitions would probably be the easiest and work. I keep reflecting. I listen to a lot of legal podcasts, and as a non-lawyer, you come across things that are standard for lawyers and you never really thought about that are interesting. And one of them is like every single contract essentially defines its terms, especially laws. When you're writing a law, you reuse words that are used in other laws, but you mean a very specific thing by that. And so, it's not just a link to Wikipedia or something. It's in the actual law, they put the definition. So I've been reflecting
When they're
on
done
that
correctly.
when they're done correctly. When they're not, then you put them in the hands of originalists and textualists that don't even study history and pretend they know what was intended. But so those are some of my thoughts. Another thought is about where we're all going with this. If there's an end game to this organization, we're not sure what that end game is yet. Are we going to sit here and toss around ideas and evolve our own thinking, which is certainly what's been happening so far, and in the end go off and build our own things and maybe create a data bridge that's compatible if it's worth the effort? Or, are we going to pitch in our resources, which was the original idea, and build the system together, which so far I would say is not the way we're going. maybe we're each going to try different things. And the final thought I'll toss out there, just because you asked, is that in the category of things that we're debating, a lot of them I would put into the category of not worth debating, because I consider them to be empirical. I mean, it's good to debate sort of what are the conditions that we should test, but a lot of the kind of philosophical differences that we have, I actually think are like, well, no, that's just my current opinion, but we really need to test this. And so it's not worth wasting that much time on it. We should build a test. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No. It's, I was signaling I want to be next, but I definitely wanted you to finish. When you oppose, we'll build something together we'll each build our own things and maybe have bridges. I was hoping for something in between, that we'd build maybe a kind of core library for reading and writing that shared data format, that we would each use the library in each our own tools, because I see the UX and as more likely to be idiosyncratic and it's harder to agree on. Whereas if we can agree on the data format, we can have not just the data format, but a kind of reference implementation of some of the inherent algorithms in that data format that I was hoping we
Yeah.
put together.
Yeah, so there's like, if you think about Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin was a specification and then a reference implementation.
Yeah, that's what I was aiming at.
But everybody agreed on the rules of Bitcoin, right? They were in stone. And I see us going in a much more different way, where we each have very different use cases that we are wanting to support. And the problem with that is maximum flexibility leads to terrible
interoperability.
No, well, it's supposed to provide interoperability, but terrible performance and maintainability in each individual system, where it's like, is it really worth the effort for me to keep supporting other use cases?
This
that
ultra
I don't care
abstract
about?
thing that, with use cases I don't care about. Yep. No, it's
and I feel like more of the hands-on, what it was feeling like to me makes more sense is meeting in the middle on incremental empirical tests, incremental testing and ideas, and part of it is also, which of these things do we want for marketing reasons, or, testing, because, do we need the bridge, the data bridge and the bus and all that? If we get together and build one system, we don't. But even if we end up building one system, maybe we need to try out different forms, or maybe each person's trying to market, it's the YSORs versus Socrates versus debate map sort of thing, where everybody's trying their own thing and they're collecting arguments and debates that are useful. And for now, everybody should benefit together, right? And maybe one wins out.
My view of this, and okay, let's speak end game. Actually, I think that's a useful conversation. My end game was, if we have the data bus and reference library, then we each have our own UX, but it adds value to each of our UX, because we can say, oh, look, if your use case doesn't fit my UX, or doesn't fully fit my UX, you can do some of it in my UX and some of it in this other tool and this other tool and this other tool, and the data will sync between the tools, and you'll each use each tool for what it's best at. And you don't have to fit my UX exactly, because your use case is probably between tools. But I don't expect one tool to fit all the use cases. And so people can use however many tools are necessary for their use cases, and it becomes a mix and match portfolio of tools. So that was always my view of why an ecosystem. It's because it adds value to all the tools in the ecosystem, because the existence of each tool adds value to all the other tools, as long as they share data. So that was my endgame, the value endgame.
Yeah, and the white paper view on that is more or less that, and it's kind of what I've been trying to aim towards, but with one fundamental complication, which is that, you know, the white paper view of it is in layers, as in the core layer is shared and very well defined. And not federated. I mean, it could be done in a federated type system, but not federated in like a bunch of data repositories kind of
Oh, yes, it can.
broadcast.
What you need is
it can, but
what you need for that is a common index. What you need is to be able to know, this is the thought I'm looking at, this is its ID, where is it? Which repository has it? And in the IPFS, IPLD work, you don't even have to know. You just, it's content addressable, so you just get it, even if you don't own it in your local repo. So no, the global repo is a technological option. It's not an obligatory one. I mean, of course, a global repo gives you more performance. I'm not against global repos, and I think they're useful. What we want is a way, I would almost say a single namespace, not really, but a way that we can cross namespace boundaries the way RDF does, right? Because every concept has a URL, and so you can just reference URL, but RDF is shown to be not that robust. And this is what I'm looking at, distributed web way of doing it, because it's more robust. It doesn't depend on the server still being funded. And then, oops, server's gone, so we've lost tons of knowledge. That's an anti-goal.
Yeah, but that's sort of why blockchain is more the model I was looking at. You know, the
yeah, and my problem with blockchain is it means everybody has the whole chain, and everybody has the whole chain means if you're really having a global conversation, it would mean petabytes on in my browser memory. Won't happen. And this is why I'm looking at distributed web again.
Well, you know, petabytes for the
global conversation
miners or the full nodes, petabytes for the full nodes, but the users don't need the full node. You're browsing like any website.
No. Petabytes for the structure of the full nodes, not the content. Because the structure is rich enough at this point. Okay, maybe petabytes was a hyperbole. The structure, meaning the information of the links between the nodes.
Yeah, but you don't have to have that whole thing in your browser.
Well, if you're in a blockchain world, you do, because you're supposed to have the whole history of the chain.
No. Full nodes. That's what I'm saying. Full nodes would need it, but the average user would not. The average user accepts. It's like, you know, I can go on to OpenSea. I can go on to OpenSea and buy NFTs without downloading anything. Right? I just need my little wallet in my browser plugin.
Right. But each NFC has to have the petabytes. Each NFC server has to have the.
Yeah, each full node, right? But there's even, you know, there's light wallets and that sort of thing. And I think, especially when you're not talking about money, that's enough, is most people have light nodes and then you have full validators. But anyway, again, you know, I haven't even gone into what the final solution would be. It's more conceptually, I see blockchain as being the solution, mainly because it makes me nervous not having, what do you call it, the not guaranteed consistency. In other words, the forking. I want to avoid forking. I want to avoid information being lost in the little silos all over.
And for that, what you need again is a global index, which a DHT gives you, without the blockchain type consistency, without a single.
Right. So there are solutions that I would definitely accept. Right. Those are the tensions, and I never opposed federation. I just said it worries me because of that.
Fair,
right?
fair enough. No, and those are valid concerns, right? I mean, you've been very clear on your disaster scenarios forking, and I agree. And we have different solutions, but we agree on the problem.
Right.
I have issues with the blockchain issue because I think it puts too hard a requirement on individual servers, and I'm looking for ways for even the servers to have only a subset of the information.
I mean, there's it's like IPFS it's not blockchain, and it's not as guaranteed as I would like, or immutable. But it is an example of something more federated that is more or less.
I keep mentioning
universally
IPFS
accessible.
and IPLD.
The problem with IPFS, it like Grimes, Elon Musk's significant other, put out an album recently as an NFT. I don't know if you know this story. And the media was all put on IPFS. So it's fully decentralized. It's out there. It's available. Actually, what IPFS does is, instead of protecting your media from disappearing if the company that's hosting it goes down, it randomizes your chance of losing it if a specific, you don't actually lose it, but people who bought the NFT couldn't access her album because the nodes that happened to have the parts of the media that needed to play it were offline. So it wasn't guaranteed like fully online. It was just.
There's something called pinning in IPFS, which obviously nobody bothered to do, which gives you better guarantee. I mean, that's what.
And you always can combine traditional servers and decentralized systems,
Yes.
and then use these servers to pin.
There, I agree. I'm not religious about IPFS, by the way. I mean, IPFS for me is one solution in the space.
Again, it's a reference architecture rather than being the proposed solution, right? Yeah. So
it's. I know IPFS is good enough, kinda, not quite, not exactly, but has many requisite components. But I hear what you're saying. There is danger of non-availability, and that's why I agree with Felix. I would like to have a server where all the conversation is pinned, even if it takes terabytes. A Google scale thing that has the full history.
Yeah, but then you that is more or less a kind of blockchain solution where you have full nodes and you have light.
No, but the beauty is it's optional and it's the last resort. Like most of the stuff, anything that's accessed frequently will be distributed in the IPFS. So it becomes a bit like BitTorrent. Everybody owns it, even if there's an owner of last resort that has everything just in case everybody else forgot.
I see. Uh-huh.
But what's important to me, it's not so much that, it's that you can, with that solution, you can say, okay, here's my private conversation on my private server. I can still interact with the rest of the world because everything's been thought of as federated, and the private conversation can interact with the public conversation continuously, remain private because it's on another stream, because I have multiple streams, like maybe closer to Holochain. Holochain obviously is the other one I'm keeping a close eye on. I think there's a lot of good ideas there. And again, it's not full chain. Everybody keeps their own part, but there's still globality in other ways. And there's, you can have subsets and separate chains, and you get the ability to have your individual chain that talks with the global chain. And for me, that's something I want in terms of partial transparency.
I think, Marc-Antoine, your ideas can be realized without event sourcing. Are you aware of that?
Possibly, yeah. I'm not.
I don't think it's a hard requirement, because very often you present it as a hard requirement.
I'm not sure. Okay, well, maybe that's worth getting into, or is that too detailed and we should get back to
I think for
doing
now
the agreement, disagreement, but that's a conversation worth having. I'm not sure. I really not sure, because I do want to capture the fact that every person's ideas evolves over time.
You still can, because if things reference each other and depend on each other, they form chains in the data, but it doesn't have to
Yes,
be
yes,
event
yes.
source.
No, that is where I'm going. Yes, because I'm thinking CRDT more and more. That means that the event out of order should not matter, and that means I'm more and more interested in interdata dependencies more than the event chronology.
Exactly. Yeah.
There, I'm with you totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bentley.
Yeah, I was gonna think, and Felix, I think you're about to suggest that I'd like to move us to listing out our agreements and then moving to
So
proposal
do
or
we want to
disagreement.
agree on a conversation tool, a debate mapping tool?
Maybe we should just write it into a doc then.
I'm liking the idea of actually using a tool in dog fooding. Does anybody feel that one of the tools is appropriate for it?
Well, I mean, if I don't think it's a bad idea to have a list and then have a place that you kind of choose which ones to discuss and then discuss them. So I'd rather make the list first than choosing a tool. And
I put
I
all
don't
of them
think
in
the
the tool
discussion
anyway,
tool is
so
great.
why transfer from a list?
Well, because we can agree on a list before we can agree on a tool. Like,
Okay.
one of the things in the list is to agree on a tool. And if we
Let's
do
make that
now,
item
then
1, and then we can forget about the rest of the list and do it in the tool.
only if we think that's important. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
I
want
would
more
like to
tool
get a list of
discussions.
the things we've agreed on, and I don't think we need to discuss those. So those don't even need to be in a tool, right? And those don't even need to be in the same tool because when people come in and say, well, where are you? The Y source guys, the first thing they want to see is that list of agreement, and they don't want to have to dig through anything else.
My idea is, let's put the list of agreements in the tool, and it'll be a way to point to it. Okay.
But which tool?
I mean, I'm
like,
not that. If you have a tool in mind.
Yeah, if you have one, we can try.
I think we all have tools like we can use. As far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to use either debate graph, debate map, even Wisorus, or you all have tools. They're all
know
acceptable.
that any of those tools apply to what I'm hoping to get to. So.
Oh, okay. So what's missing?
I mean, like, I want a list of here's the ideas we've agreed on. Here's the ideas we haven't agreed on.
I think we can do
any sort of tool like Y-source, they would be separate things, or we'd put them in a debate argument, and that'd be falsifying it because those are not pros or cons of the main thing. It's a list of disparate items.
I think we can do that in ID map. In debate map, sorry.
Not really, not a list. It's more for reasoning through each one.
Okay, so let's
putting out the arguments. But here's what I think, and here's something also that I've been reflecting on for a while now. Ever since we almost fell apart because of our disagreements on how to proceed. Right around then, I was listening to an audio book on the Congress. What is it? The Constitution. The what do you call it? The Congress. The Congress. What do you call all the discussions they had to write the Constitution?
Congress?
Oh,
I guess it was the Constitutional Congress. Yeah.
The Federation Papers, actually.
Well, there were the papers, and there were the in-person Congress events. And I was like, how did they create something so complex and controversial and get through it?
They yelled at each other.
The way, well, I mean, part of it was long written, deeply thought.
Wasn't someone stabbed? Or was that later on? I know several people were shot and stabbed somewhere in the process. Anyway,
mostly in the Senate, mostly in the
Luckily,
Congress itself.
we're remote,
during
so
this.
that won't happen.
No, yeah. There was less fisticuffs during the actual. Anyway, but what they did was, what we ended up doing essentially, which was handing over like a day to each person. So everybody had a lot of time to make their own case, and then people would listen and discuss. And that kind of, that we were getting blocked all the time on how to proceed rather than just letting the person say their part. And now the other thing I was thinking was about what Felix was saying, that, you know, yesterday things were going astray until he sat down and wrote it down. And now we're talking about how do we record what we've agreed on so far. I don't know if it's what we've agreed on, but it's how far have we gotten in our thinking that's more important to me. Because I feel like anything we've agreed on, a single word can blow it apart in a second. We agreed on layers, and then it turns out, which on that to say, I found the most productive exercise writing the Medium posts, where I went through ideas and illustrated the ideas, and, you know, spent time thinking about the ideas and then putting them out there. And to me, that's a better way to kind of not only congeal the things we've been talking about, but also put them out for others to see. I find that better than a list of, yes, we agree that everything should have support, or yes, we agree that everything should have a negation, or yes, we, I find it more robust and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't think you can get to one without moving through the other, but yeah. I mean, eventually you're going to write the list while you're writing it out. It's just headings rather than the content. So.
Yeah, I think a simple list without any big tooling should be good enough for now. And then I'm very curious to try out for one of our discussions to actually map it out. But I wouldn't use a mapping tool for the list.
Okay,
Yeah, I wouldn't map out agreements unless we want to, like, I think you map out the reasons why we agree rather than what we're agreeing on. What we're agreeing on is more like a law. It's a lot of words and then explaining what all those words mean, and, you know.
Well, I think that, and this is an exercise or a proposal, doing it in terms of quote unquote controversy, right? These are our controversial ideas that we agreed on. Right. Certainly, again, so like I think progressive formalization is one. I don't know if it's controversial, but you know, it's something that is not the common usage in the argument mapping community. Saying, I think saying that arguments or supports are claims, for me, that's again not common usage. Going down to entities, I don't know if that's a point of agreement, but I suspect it is. I think that's not something that's done commonly. These are all things that we have proposed, and let's not say the obvious, because there's a lot that's obvious in the argument mapping, and that everybody does in argument mapping until it isn't. So, you know, then we'll discover, oh, we don't actually have this in common. But let's identify here are our kind of outrageous statements that we share as a community.
And then kind of as we have a controversy and come to some sort of consensus, we kind of add it to the list, and anyone can look at that system and if it supports history and see what.
The whole one thing where I don't know that we agree on, but that's certainly, and it's interesting to speak about the really outrageous statements, is the question, is there such a thing as a mutable claim, or how was the relation between mutable ideas and immutable expressions thereof? And it's very, very complex relationship.
Yes, but I'm finding it's falling into the category of we need to try it out, because, you know, my reasons for mutability, or at least leaving things in the past, because they're kind of different things, right? What you see might change, but it could be you have a complete historical record, so it's immutable in the sense you don't change the past. versus what Stephen has been arguing for, which is you see everything there and it's immutable. To me, comes down to, well, what's going to be usable? What's going to be, what can you see and all that? And which means you got to try it, right? And I almost feel like I'm done debating that. I just want to try it out.
Yeah, I think immutability is a implementation detail, an important one, but it is.
Okay, I think I'll need to express better what I mean by
which a little note here, which means I think we do agree on maintaining and seeing the complete history.
Yep, that is one
Exactly.
thing one thing we agree on. That is worth putting as an outrageous statement. Okay, so we're actually debating the statements themselves. Let's have a Google Doc. I'm giving up on the, we're not agreeing on a tool, so let's not use a tool. Let's use Google Doc as a minimalist tool.
I'm not great at typing. Who wants to take that on?
I could do it. Well, I mean, Google Doc, we all can do it, but someone needs to open it.
By the way, folks, I do have to leave at the hour, so let's see how much we can do.
Yeah, let's just start and then
Yeah, me too.
finish at the hour. Is anybody already?
I'm doing it.
Okay, thanks.
And we have, it'd be nice if it was created in the, or moved into the Canonical Debate Lab Google folder if you're.
Okay, CDL discussion. I'll call it discussion points. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Déplacer. Where? So it goes in back. What is the name of the
Canonical Debate Lab, all spelled out, is the folder name.
Yeah, it's not in my drive, so you know what? Somebody who has.
Let me create it.
You create it. Sorry. That was a mistake.
No problem. I probably should have offered to do that. And then I'll create it in there, but I might move it to the subfolder once I figure out the folder. But let's not block the conversation. So doc, right? Not sheet.
Yeah.
Why does it say private only to me when I just did it in a shared folder? Oh, because I haven't named it. What'd you say? CDL discussion.
I called it discussion points. So we'll have both the agreement and the disagreements. We'll have them in separate sections, level 1 headers. I don't care. We'll move them around anyway as we discover new disagreements.
That's the copy link. The link, anyone in this group should have full access.
Yeah, it looks like I can edit. So
might as well leave it in the root folder since this is the main purpose of CDL.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's start a list. So progressive formalization. I think we may elaborate on those, but let's just list them for now. I think that's one thing we're clear about. Full history. Good, that's let me actually right now start.
Trying to think of what else we argued about the last several.
Game.
Layers.
Yeah. Let's actually have the layers. So, but let me do the end game. We build one common system. We each build our systems and so with interrupt. No judgment here. We will get common with library. Layers correspond to this thing. databases. Layers of Okay. I think I can say okay, should I put should I say that we agreed for the need for compound claims, or is that still contentious? I'm
I think
open.
that's still contentious, I guess.
Good.
Still contentious. Yeah.
Excellent.
So compound claims, the whole equations.
I mean, low
stuff.
level design things are still kind of contentious, right?
Yeah, equations,
agree.
parametric claims, and so on.
Right. I mean, one thing we definitely agree on, a couple things we agree on. We agree that the system, whatever that means, up to, you know, at least the base level of systems we've been talking about, should not define what truth is, right? They don't pick a winner. We agree that scoring is to be supported at some level, but is to be optional. And we agree that scoring should be pluggable. In other words, modular, that you should be able to support multiple different scoring algorithms rather than just one.
Yeah. I would actually say the same way about truth. For me, truth is more optional and modular than totally out of scope. Are you fine with that formulation?
Yeah, but what I would be careful how to word it. Like, we wouldn't prevent a higher layer system for defining something like that, but at the core layer, it has to be totally not present.
Or actually, I need, okay, well, okay, no,
That's what I was saying, in the base layer.
Well, when you say not
you
present,
thinking you might still want it?
No, yeah, no, sorry. When you say not present, if it's an interpretation layer, I agree totally. If it's a storage layer, I disagree totally, right? It's the same idea. Like, if on the bus we have, here's a statement with whatever data that is specific to my representation, and you only interpret the subset you agree with, truth might be there. It's not present, but you don't care about it, you discard it, and that's fine because it's not part of the base layer agreement.
Anything branded, actually, I would put it this way, because to me it's not an architectural question, it's a perception question, which is that, to me, I would say anything branded the canonical debate shall not promote a result that it declares being the truth, the right answer, right? Anything branded canonical debate shall not, quote unquote, pick winners. I mean, that needs to be better defined.
Maybe we need to
at some point.
Move that. Maybe we need to move that into the contentious points.
No, I actually said this way, I'm actually fine with it.
Well, Bentley,
I mean,
why are you?
Once we start discussing about it,
because it sounds like I can't put the CDL logo on the Goalybot website because Goalybot is making truth claims.
Goalybot is not making truth claims. Goalybot is very clearly saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever I'm saying is a result of what you put in.
I mean, it is in Goalybot's name.
Yeah. I mean, I understand there's a fine line there.
Oh God, yes.
And it would be a political. It's not something that would be programmable. It's something that the organization would have to decide, right? But I would say that as a principle of the organization, there's explicitly an effort not to declare winners.
So
Or
we
declare
might,
that there's a right
we might
answer.
kind of have agreement. It still might be good to put it in the contentious just until we figure out how to word it.
Yeah, I'm afraid I will vote to have
Okay.
this to the contentious. It's I agree in the principle, by the way, but yeah, there's the devils in the details. Like, for example, one thing I will try to do is to be able to say this community, like this group of people, and you can actually see who they are, believes this collectively. And so that's true for them. So for me, that's a name. It's not, I'm not about to say this is scientific truth, but that then I could say, well, the community of scientists, specialists of this, believe
Well,
this
sort of. I
collectively.
mean,
And-
but okay, but see, that itself is claims that you're making.
Absolutely, but I mean,
That's claims. Whereas if you say like here is a
No,
collection or a concentration of users that have stated as their popular vote for this that they believe it. That is not controversial, and you can say that. But if you say, and they are the organization of scientists of whatever, that's the claim part, is that that's one and the same, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I would like to be able to say, you know, the system has verified that so and so and so are all scientists, and they have, because for me, I see that as a real use case, verifying those are actual scientists, they're actually a specialist on this issue, and they actually agree on this point. So this is the scientific consensus on this issue. It's been verified that this is the scientific consensus on this issue.
No,
I'm not
and
saying it's
that's where I
true.
would say, no, that's debatable, and it should be debatable to the public. And so rather than saying the canonical debate says this, there's scientific consensus, it would be, here's a collection of users associated with this thing, and somebody has made the claim that is not the canonical debate, that means scientific consensus. Go ahead and debate about it.
Right. No, okay, fair enough. I see what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, I see a case where I build a tool, and I understand the distinction you're making, and I can live with that, the way of saying it. But saying, no, it's not just, this is a claim that those are the scientists. These have been verified to be the scientists. So from this organization's standpoint, this is the scientific consensus. But
yeah, no, you are, all those things are debatable, right? So yes, you support that with evidence. That's fine, and then
yes,
you can debate the evidence, right?
Oh, of course.
So you're saying the canonical debate as an organization will not be taking sides in any of the debates. It's just a
yeah, well, and maybe that comes out as we'll never say anything definitive. We'll sort of be gully butt about it, saying this is the information that's in the.
Well, even CDL itself
Here it
as
is.
an organization isn't saying any of that. It's just hosting the space, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and that way, I think I partially agree with you, but there's a fine line again in saying, you know, these
Yeah,
are
I'm not saying
verified.
thou shalt not build a tool that does that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there is a point where you verified these are the people making that claim. And those people, you verified that these are a majority of scientists on this issue. And so you can
Okay,
say, hence,
but how would I define that? I would want to see that implemented as a scoring mechanism. What is that scoring mechanism? You can call it like Marc Antoine's scientific consensus scorer.
Yeah.
And then you would openly publish your method of this scoring algorithm uses these users as proxies and so on.
That sounds perfectly valid. I'm perfectly happy with saying, yeah, it exists in this bubble according to this calculation, according to this, and there I'm with you. This is not endorsed by CDL because nothing is, but this calculation, this validation algorithm endorses X. And here, look at the algorithm, It's open source. Okay, it is the hour. I think this is a start. Let's keep populating that. I think that's maybe individually, maybe collectively, but I think we're Like, this is interesting because this was the more debating. We need to get into details here. Where do we differ exactly? Because I'm not sure we differ. We just need to really formulate it right in this case.
Yep, I agree.
Uh,
Write that down.
True determination. Speed. Does that sound right? And we're at the hour, folks.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm
Thanks,
turning into a
everyone.
pumpkin. Let's continue this. I'm happy to move it in agreement if everybody else is at this point.
We'll discuss it.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it.
Let's see.
Let's
See you
continue
on
that.
Bye,
Friday.
everybody.
See you on Friday, folks.
Bye.
Bye.